following a stabbing in East Haven. We're told a child was home at the time of the incident, and one person is now under arrest. News 8's Preston.
On the morning of December 30th, 2025, in East Haven, Connecticut, multiple 911 calls flooded in around 8:10 a.m. A man was attacking a woman in the hallway of the Foxon Woods apartment complex. But here's what made this case different. One of those 911 calls, it came from the attacker himself. Tyreek Black, 21 years old, called dispatch and told them exactly what he'd done. He'd just stabbed his girlfriend, Destiny Rumley, and she was dying. If this case shakes you like it shook me, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to Shadow Crime, and turn on that bell icon so you never miss when we cover stories like this. These victims deserve to have their stories told. Now let's talk about Destiny. She was only 21 years old, a young mother trying to build a life for herself and her 3-year-old daughter. By all accounts, she was someone who loved her child more than anything in this world. She had dreams, she had plans, she had a whole life ahead of her. And on that Tuesday morning, all of that was taken away in the most brutal way imaginable. Destiny and Tyreek had been in a dating relationship. We don't know exactly how long they'd been together. But what we do know is that he wasn't the father of her daughter. He was someone she let into her life, into her home, around her child. She trusted him, and that trust cost her everything. According to what came out in court, the attack happened after Destiny said she was going to call the police. Think about that for a second. What does it say about a relationship when someone saying they'll call the police triggers that level of violence? What had been happening behind closed doors that we'll never fully know about? Because here's the thing about domestic violence. By the time it reaches this point, there's usually a history. There are warning signs. There are moments where the victim feels trapped, scared, unsure of how to get out. And on that morning, when Destiny tried to take that step, when she threatened to involve the authorities, Tyreek Black made a choice. He stabbed her. Not once, not twice, 9 times. The medical examiner would later determine that she suffered stab wounds to her trunk, her extremities, and her head. Can you imagine the terror, the pain, the desperation as she fought for her life? But here's what breaks my heart even more. Her 3-year-old daughter was inside that apartment, inside, while her mother was being murdered in the hallway, while the man her mother had trusted was taking her life. That little girl was just feet away.
All right, so this is the arraignment of State versus Tyreek Nelson Black. Appointed public defender.
Yes, sir.
All right, the public defender is appointed. Bail commissioner's recommendation.
Your Honor.
I will indicate, first of all, it's an on-site arrest. I did read through the report, and I will clearly make a finding of probable cause for the crimes, including the crime of murder. Go ahead.
Your Honor, he has no criminal history. He is 21 years old. He is a lifelong resident. He reports that he is gainfully employed. He does report substance abuse and mental health issues. I do understand that he has no record. However, due to the nature of allegations, we will be recommending $1 million.
How much?
$1 million.
Thank you. State.
Your Honor, in this incident, the defendant is charged with murder. The defendant called police, said that he had stabbed the victim. He further said that it was a couple of times. When officers arrived, he refused to open the door and threatened the officers that he would stab them if they entered. There was a 3-year-old child present for this incident. The defendant fought with officers, and the victim suffered 9 deep puncture wounds. He only paid state police at the bond should remain $2 million.
Counsel?
Thank you, Your Honor. As stated by Bill, Mr. Black is 21 years old, grew up in Hamden, Connecticut, has been a native of our state his entire life. He attended school, graduated from ACES, and as stated, he has no criminal record. Your Honor, Mr. Black is truly a product of his environment, his upbringing. His background consists mostly of depending on state benefits, grew up in foster care, multiple ineffective DCF involvements. Lack of guidance and support led Mr. Black down the trail of mental health issues. He has multiple diagnoses, including PTSD, multiple stays at inpatient services, outpatient services, and many prior suicide attempts. Even though through all this turmoil in his life, he was trying. Prior to this incident, he was working part-time in Wallingford as a flagger. He had recently completed progressive treatment and was doing well. Mr. Black is also extremely remorseful for this incident. We ask that you take that into consideration when setting the bond for Mr. Black.
Well, he is 21 years of age. I guess he does not have any previous record, is that correct?
No, Your Honor.
I mean, obviously, I read through the report. It is, I know he's emotional right now, but it's a very disturbing report to read when people are calling the police, indicating someone is screaming and asking or requesting help, and then he called actually the police and indicated, quote, "I just stabbed my bitch," close quote. The police were able to get the child, I guess, out through a window, the 3-year-old. He finally let the police in, according to the report. And I believe the defendant, even down at the station, did not disagree. She was calling the police because he had made an oral threat. And as a result of her attempting to call the police is when he admits that he took out a knife and he did stab her. It does indicate, as the state said, that it looks like there were a number of numerous wounds on the victim. The victim was alive when the police were there, but obviously she succumbed to these injuries. Also sounds like they had a prior relationship some time ago, and there was some attempt over the last few weeks, according to the defendant, to rekindle it. It certainly calls for a serious bond, a domestic homicide of someone. I'll set the bond at the $2.5 million at this particular time. It's going to be transferred over to Part A. That's where the serious cases go, through 35 Church Street. I'm going to transfer it over there for January 14th. The bond is set without prejudice. Certainly, if you're going to get a public defender over there, they would have the right to argue the bond again over there. But January 14th would be the next date at 235 Church Street.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Yeah, your brother's gonna die out in the field.
When police arrived at the scene, they found Destiny in that hallway. And let me tell you, the officers who responded that day saw something that shook them. The police report was so disturbing that even the judge who read it days later said it was hard to get through. We're talking about experienced law enforcement and a seasoned judge being rattled by what they saw in those documents. But while officers were trying to save Destiny's life, they had another massive problem. Tyreek Black had barricaded himself inside the apartment. And remember, that 3-year-old little girl was still in there with him. Can you imagine being those officers? You've got a woman die in the hallway, and her child is locked inside with the man who just killed her mother. These officers didn't hesitate. They broke a side window and climbed in to rescue that child. Thank God she wasn't physically hurt. Physically, but the psychological damage? The trauma of what that little girl might have heard, might have seen, that's something she's going to carry for the rest of her life. She's 3 years old, and she's already lost her mother to violence. She's going to grow up knowing that the man her mom dated took her away forever. Now here's where this case gets even more chilling. After stabbing Destiny 9 times, after barricading himself in that apartment with her child, Tyreek Black called 911 himself. He told the dispatcher what he'd done. Why would someone do that? Was it guilt? Panic? Or did he realize there was no way out and want to control the narrative? We may never fully understand what was going through his mind, but that call exists. His own voice admitting to what he'd just done. Fast forward to December 31st, the very next day. Tyreek Black is brought into court for his arraignment. The charges? Murder, assault on police, interfering with police, interfering with an emergency call, and risk of injury to a minor. His bond was initially set at $2 million. $2 million. That tells you how serious this was from the jump. But then something happened in that courtroom. The judge Patrick Clifford, read through the police report. He read the details of what Tyreek had done to Destiny. And you know what he did? He increased that bond to $2.5 million. A judge looked at this case and said, "No, $2 million isn't enough. This is too brutal. This is too disturbing." Judge Clifford didn't mince words either. He said the report was very disturbing to read. When a judge who's seen countless violent cases says something like that, you know it's bad. You know this wasn't just another case on the docket.
A woman is dead tonight following a stabbing in East Haven. We're told a child was home at the time of the incident, and one person is now under arrest. News 8's Preston Stober breaks down what we know right now in this investigation.
Just off of Old Foxon Road in East Haven, a woman was stabbed to death by 21-year-old Tyreek Black. Police are considering this a domestic violence incident. It happened at the apartment complex just behind me. We were asked by the property manager to stay off of the property. Just after 8 this morning, police say the attack happened. They arrived to find 21-year-old Tyreek Black, who quickly barricaded himself in the apartment.
During that time, another officer went around to the side of the apartment complex, to the side of the building, found a side window, smashed it, and was able to actually retrieve a young child from the apartment.
Police say that the young child did not suffer any injuries and confirm that the child's mother is the stabbing victim. Police are not yet confirming her name. After police got into the apartment, they arrested Black and rushed the woman to the hospital, where she later died. Police say the victim and Black initially appear to have been in a dating relationship.
Officers are trained and are ready for these types of situations, but you're never really ready to encounter something of that nature.
Margot described the scene as traumatic for some officers. Weighing in on the attack, East Haven Mayor Joseph Carfora said, quote, "This is a sad and unnecessary loss for our community. Our thoughts are with the victim's family, loved ones, and especially her young child affected by this terrible act." Police say the child has been reunited with other family members and mention the unimaginable loss the child is going through. But police highlight the effort that resulted in the child being removed from danger.
To look for an alternate way in, that really lends to sort of the training that officer has. Just the thought to be able to go around to a side window, smash it out, to bring a child to safety, that officer is a hero in my book.
Police continue to investigate the murder as Black remains in custody. Black is being charged with multiple crimes, including murder. He's being held on a $2 million bond and is expected in court tomorrow. In East Haven, Preston Stober, News 8.
If you or someone you know is struggling with domestic violence or is in a crisis, we have several sources available across the state. They include the National Domestic Violence Hotline, Interval House in Hartford, and Connecticut Coalition Against Domestic Violence. We have this information and more resources on our website, WTNH.com.
And then the courtroom exploded. Destiny's family was there. Her cousin Angel Hubbard, her relatives who loved her, who were trying to process this nightmare. They watched as the man who brutally took their loved one stood before the judge. And when Tyreek was being let out of the courtroom, they couldn't hold it in anymore. Family members lunged toward him. They had to be physically restrained and removed by marshals. Can you blame them? Really? Put yourself in their shoes for a moment. Your family member, your cousin, your loved one was stabbed 9 times. Her child witnessed or heard the aftermath. And now you're sitting in a courtroom watching this man who took her away. What would you do? How would you react? But here's what got me. Tyreek Black himself was emotional during that hearing. He was crying. He literally fell into the marshal's arms, shedding tears in front of everyone. And I need you to think about this with me. What are those tears for? Are they remorse for what he did to Destiny? Are they self-pity because he's facing murder charges? Are they fear of what's coming next for him? Because 9 times. He stabbed her 9 times. That's not an accident. That's not a moment of lost control. That's sustained violence. That's a choice made over and over again. Angel Hubbard, Destiny's cousin, said something outside that courthouse that I can't stop thinking about. She said, "You brutally stabbed her. What justice can we get? Even if he gets life, what justice can we really get? We can't get our loved one back. This is beyond heartbreaking." And she's right, isn't she? What is justice in a case like this? Tyreek Black could spend the rest of his life in prison, and it won't bring Destiny back. It won't give that 3-year-old her mother back. That little girl is now being cared for by other family members, trying to piece together a life without her mom. What do you even tell a child that age? How do you explain that the person who was supposed to protect them, who they might have trusted, took away the most important person in their world?
This is an unreal, realistic reality for us in 2025. For our loved one not to be taken away in such a demeanor, domestic violence. She screamed for help. Her child was there. Now we have to end 2025 in mourning and grieving instead of celebrating 2026. So this is beyond heartbreaking. We have no words. It's just another chapter of mourning that we can't keep taking.
Was there a history of trouble between the two of them? We don't know him.
We don't even really know him. This is a shock to the family. Like, who is this character? Because you can't even call him a person. For someone of this horrendous act, you're not even a person. So it's a character. You're a made-up person.
And the fact that that little child was there?
We have no words on that. Now that he has to grow up with no mom. I asked him, Mom, now that she's his guardian angel, we have no words to describe how we feel.
And what would be justice?
Life
Life in prison, the electric chair.
Besides life.
to feel what she felt.
Right.
For him to suffer.
Brutally attacked.
For you to stab her
brutally
9 times.
Stabbed her.
9 times.
What justice can we get? Even if he got life, no, seriously, what justice can we really get? We can't get our loved one back.
And that's what you want.
We would love to have her back. We would trade places. Don't ever love somebody that much that you have to take their life to show that you love them. You that anger. You have that much anger inside of you. Don't ever love somebody that much. Kill yourself. Don't kill us. Why we gotta suffer? What did we do as a family to you that we now have to take this every day?
What did she do as a...
Like what? There's nothing that he can give as a reason for this. As a reason why now her mother tears gotta water the cemetery ground. What?
The medical examiner ruled Destiny's death a homicide. Cause of death: stab wounds to the trunk, extremities, and head. Cold. Clinical words that don't capture the horror of what actually happened. They don't capture her final moments, her fear, her pain, her thoughts about her daughter. Tyreek Black is scheduled to return to court on January 14th, 2025. That's his next appearance. The legal process is just beginning, and this case is going to unfold over months, maybe years. But the damage is done. Destiny Rumley is gone. Her daughter is motherless. Her family is shattered. So I want to leave you with some questions, because this case raises things we need to think about. What makes someone capable of stabbing another person 9 times? At what point in a relationship do warning signs appear that we miss or ignore? And how many Destinies are out there right now in relationships where they feel threatened, where they're afraid to call the police because of what might happen? Domestic violence doesn't always end in murder, but it can. And when someone tells you they're going to call the police and that triggers violence, that tells you everything about the power and control dynamics at play. If this case moved you, if it made you think, do me a favor, like this video, share it, leave a comment below telling me your thoughts. Subscribe to Shadow Crime, because we're going to follow this case all the way through. And hit that bell icon so you're here when we bring you updates on what happens to Tyreek Black and whether justice, whatever that means in this situation, is served. These stories matter. These victims matter. Destiny Rumley mattered.